Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to unlock a few small words that have a huge amount of power. I mean, if you get them right, you sound polite, persuasive, you sound collaborative. But if you get them wrong, well, that's exactly what we're here to fix. You know that feeling, right? We have all been there. That little moment of hesitation when you have to ask for something, or maybe give someone a piece of advice, and you're just not sure how to say it without stepping on any toes. Well, today, we're going to swap out that hesitation for some real confidence. So here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by looking at these words as social superpowers. Then, we'll dive into how to use them for asking, offering, and advising. And at the end, we'll put together a simple toolkit you can start using, like, right away. Okay, first up, let's talk about your social superpower verbs. For real, let's just stop thinking about these as boring grammar rules. Instead, think of words like can, could, should, and would as your secret weapons in conversation. They add all this nuance, politeness, and, yeah, even influence to everything you say. Think about it this way. These verbs are kind of like the secret ingredients in a recipe. You know, saying, give me the bread versus, could you pass the bread? They both have the same goal, right? But the whole flavor of the conversation is completely different. One sounds like a command, and the other is this polite, collaborative request that actually makes the other person feel like they have a choice. All right, section 2, the art of asking. Let's get into what is probably the most common challenge, just asking for stuff. Whether you need permission for something or you want someone to do something for you, picking the right word makes all the difference in the world. Okay, check out this subtle difference here. It's like a politeness scale. Can I? That's great for simple, informal things where you're pretty sure the answer is going to be yes. But you know, when the stakes are a little higher, like borrowing a car or asking a stranger if a seat is taken, could I and may I just add this really crucial layer of respect. It shows you know it's a bigger ask. And the exact same idea applies when you're asking someone else to do something. Can you is totally fine in casual situations with people you know well. But could you and would you, those become your go-to tools for politeness, especially when you're talking to strangers or asking for a bigger favor. Now, let's talk about one of the trickiest phrases in English. Would you mind? When someone asks you this, they are being extremely polite. But here's the confusing part. The right way to say yes is by saying something negative, like, no, not at all. It feels weird, but what it really means is, yes, of course, I'd be happy to do that for you. Okay, here is a really important warning. So, while it's perfectly polite to ask, may I sit here, you can never flip that around. You'd never ever say, may you give me a lift. It's just one of those grammar rules that has absolutely no exceptions in modern English. Just don't do it. Moving on to our third section, how to offer and suggest. So we've kind of mastered asking for things, so now let's flip the coin and look at the other side. Using these exact same words to be proactive, to offer help, and to make suggestions that people actually want to hear. Look at this. You have a fantastic range of choices for offering help. I'll lend you some money is really direct and confident. Something like, shall I clean the car is more of a question, checking if they even want you to. And then, would you like me to, is a super polite and respectful way to offer your help. Making suggestions works in a pretty similar way. Let's drive is very collaborative. It kind of assumes everyone's on board. How about driving? That's a classic way to just throw an idea out there. And if you're a bit less sure, we could drive, presents it as just one of a few different possibilities. And now for section 4, the spectrum of advice. This is where these superpower verbs get incredibly useful. I mean, giving advice is a delicate art, right? And these words let you control the intensity, letting you turn the volume up or down from a direct command to just a gentle nudge. Think of this slide as that volume dial. At the very loudest setting, you must is basically an order. There's no room for discussion. A step down from that is you'd better, which kind of implies there's a negative consequence if you ignore the advice. Your should is your standard neutral advice. And then all the way at the softest setting is you could, which is really just a simple suggestion. These tools aren't just for now and the future. They also let us give feedback or even express regret about things that already happened. Saying you shouldn't have worn those clothes is a really clear way to say you wore them and in my opinion, that was a mistake. Here's another really important distinction when it comes to negative advice. While saying you shouldn't wear those clothes is totally fine, we don't really use mustn't for advice. Mustn't is saved for really strong prohibitions, like you mustn't touch that hot stove. It's much more serious. Okay, so let's see how all these tools work in a real-world chat. The shop assistant starts with a really simple standard offer. Can I help you? And after her request for a refund gets denied, Laura shifts gears and makes a very polite request using one of our tools. Would you exchange them? And right here, the assistant is giving feedback about something that already happened. Laura opened the box, so the assistant uses shouldn't have to explain why that's a problem for the return policy. And to wrap up the conversation, Laura gives some pretty strong advice. It's almost a warning with, you'd better not. Then, in response, the assistant switches to a gentle, low-pressure suggestion using you could. It's just a perfect example of picking the right tool for the right moment. And that brings us to our last section, the communication toolkit. We've talked about asking, offering, suggesting, and giving advice. So now, let's pull all of that together into one simple, quick reference guide. This right here is your key takeaway, your cheat sheet for handling all these common social situations. Need to ask your boss for a day off? Could I is going to be your best friend. Want to warn a friend about a bad idea? You'd better not is the tool you want for that job. Of course, the absolute best way to get good at using these tools is to, well, actually use them. So my question for you is this. In your next meeting, your next phone call, or your next chat with a friend, which one of these superpower words are you going to consciously try out to make your communication that much better?